Well, don't forget, we have a huge Sunday Night Football matchup for you and for the Mafia. The Bills, the Bengals. The Bengals slim 1.5-point favorites to beat Buffalo. Since he's won 3 straight, they've won 4 of 5. The total set at 49.5, and coverage begins on this network at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Here he is, the former NFL tight end from LaSalle, Ontario, Luke Willson, looking spectacular. Luke, can you just tell us a little bit about your new setup here, because these paintings are incredible.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited, finally moving in here to town. And I got my boy, Eric Faraci from LaSalle, Ontario, painted a little Techno Thursday picture over here. And my college roommate, his dad is a painter and painted this after we won the Super Bowl my rookie year. So it's making the place look pretty nice.
It looks awesome, dude. And I know you're pumped about this Sunday nighter. It's that rematch from last year's AFC divisional round matchup. Bengals beat the Bills 27-10. You said you weren't 100% convinced that the Bills were back, even though they beat the Bucs last Thursday. You did, however, say that you were very convinced that the Bengals were back when they beat the Niners last weekend. So for the Bills, Luke, how important is this win to sort of solidify them once again as contenders in the AFC?
So to me, Jay, the winning part is not actually that crucial. Of course, they want to get a win here. You want to beat Cincinnati. You want to stay close to Miami in the division, all of that. And that's not lost on me. But if you look at the last 3-4 weeks for the Bills, they haven't put together a full 60 minutes of football or played, in my opinion, near their potential. So if they come out against a Cincinnati team that is rolling right now, and they have a heavyweight bout, and they throw haymakers, and they take a few punches from Joe Burrow, and they return them, I'm actually happy, if it's a one-possession game and they end up on the wrong side of this thing, at least then they can go back to the film and say, hey, how did Cincinnati beat us? But on the flip side, if the Bills go out and they look good at moments and they're inconsistent and they have a couple brutal turnovers or they shoot themselves in the foot, you're going to sit here and you're going to be scratching your head afterwards wondering what and who these Bills really are. So again, obviously they're going for a win. Obviously they want that, but I think they need to ignore this noise about last year in the playoffs. I think they need to focus on playing 60 minutes of great football. If they win, incredible. If they lose, figure out how they got beat. And now at least you've got film for the playoffs because you're probably going to see them again at some point. So that's kind of where my head is. I'm not as focused on the win and loss column for this game. I'm more focused on the quality of football that Buffalo plays.
Of course, we have to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. We're contractually obligated to do that. Luke, they're North America's team, according to Chris Johnston, Pierre LeBrun, and all our hockey insiders. So this is what's interesting to me. It's a huge matchup, an NFC showdown against the Philadelphia Eagles. But what I want to show you, Luke, is that Dallas Cowboys schedule so far. The only times that they've faced a legitimate Super Bowl contender, they've been blown out by the Niners. The rest of the wins against teams that are currently sub 500, except for the Jets, and I'm not sure that any of us really believe that they're an over 500 team, even though they are over 500. Are you giving the Cowboys a chance against the Eagles? Like, would a win, Luke, solidify them in your mind as legit Super Bowl contenders?
Definitely, especially coming out of the NFC right now, who across the board, I don't think there's a clear-cut number one. And I think that this week, I don't expect them to be favored. I like Philadelphia to win. That being said, though, how Dallas has really, talked about how they're going to play football is by getting turnovers on the defensive side of the ball and really controlling the game on the offensive side of the ball. I don't necessarily like it for them. I like kind of what they've done the last few weeks where they get CeeDee Lamb, who's an elite playmaker, the ball 10 times a game. But Mike McCarthy has consistently said that's not exactly what he wants to do, and that's not exactly the identity he wants to have. So when you talk about this defense that Dan Quinn is running, he's going to be preaching turnovers. And right now, there's been a couple, chinks in the armor of the Eagles, and one of them has been that they've been turning the ball over at, for them, an alarming rate. So do I think they have a shot to win this bad boy? Absolutely, Jay, especially if they can find a way to either get Jalen Hurts to throw an interception or force a fumble, which the Cowboys defense is really good at.
Luke, we also have the Dolphins and Chiefs. Great matchup over in Frankfurt, Germany, the former home of the NFL Europe's Frankfurt Galaxy. And the Chiefs had a tough one over the weekend, as you know. The Chiefs are actually slight favorites for this neutral site game. Do you think they should be slight favorites over this Miami team?
Well, first and foremost, Jay, let me tell you that I wasn't around during the NFL Europe era, but the stories, particularly the off-the-field stories, did trickle down. And decades later, I can tell you, apparently, it was just absolutely outrageous. Secondly, to the main question here. Okay, I actually don't think Kansas City should be favored in this game. And let's start with Miami. The two losses that are very glaring have been to Buffalo and Philadelphia, obviously two tremendous teams. If you look at both of those games, which we've talked about on the show, the problem with Miami's offense is when they can't run the ball. And especially Philadelphia has a great run defense. Where if you look at the Chiefs, their defense has been good this year, but they're actually a middle-of-the-road team when it comes to stopping the run. So I fully believe that Miami will be able to run the ball, which opens everything up in this dynamic offense. And on the flip side of that, you look at Kansas City, and they've had a lot of Mahomes magic, Kelsey and Mahomes making a ton of plays, and that came to a halt last week. Obviously, those two guys are the best duo, I would say, in the league, especially at extending plays, but they still don't have a number 2 wide receiver. I get nervous here for the Chiefs. The Miami Dolphins will be able to score a lot of points, and if you got to come out here and score 35 or even more to keep up with this offense, and you don't really have the foundation in place, and you've really got to rely on this kind of basketball, hero ball style offense with Kelsey Mahomes, it's just a very, very tough battle, and that's why I would actually lean towards the Dolphins.
Well, either way, buddy, I'm looking forward to two things. Mike McDaniel's sprint away from the reporter that interviews him at halftime, of course, and I'm also looking forward to your future book about all those stories about NFL Europe, because it's going to be a massive seller. Buddy, we'll talk to you after that Thursday nighter, okay?
Sounds great.
And yeah, here is that Thursday nighter I was referring to. It is the Titans and the Steelers, and Will Levis is going to start after his excellent debut against the Falcons. Kenny Pickett should be good to go for Pittsburgh. Steelers a 2.5-point favorite. Pre-game coverage begins at 7 o'clock Eastern. We'll follow it up with myself and Luke breaking down the game. How will Mike Vrabel or Mike Tomlin react if their team loses? You got to tune in to find out.